Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hey, let us begin the day. I'm sorry, it's tremendously late. I know it's very late, and there's absolutely no excuse for it. But I'll give you an excuse anyway. I was up very late last night, and therefore, etc. Okay, let's give charity. Charity saves from all bad things, even from death, and charity brings all good things, even Mashiach, best thing in the world. Can't bring Moshiach now. We need desperately an end to this terrible gullus. Here we have today's learning. We'll continue what we learned from yesterday. What's this? 1 second. What's going on over here? I don't. Okay. Yes. All right. So yesterday, what did we learn? We're learning what do you have to have forgiveness for, and what is this whole idea of Yom Kippur, that it brings forgiveness. That's the topic of the beginning of this week's double reading that we have. Okay, so what's the point? So the Rebbe said, God creates the world. God creates.
We can't see the Torah, the Sefer. We can't see it.
1 second, let's start it again. Here we go. Something is wrong over here. Something is wrong. Wait, there's a message. There we go. Okay, now.
I don't see it.
There it goes. There it is. Good.
Yeah, okay, now screen sharing is starting. Yep.
Wonderful. Okay, so we talked yesterday, we said that God creates the world, and he put man in the world so that man will sustain the world and man will improve the world according to the Torah. And that man that God, in this case, is talking about the Jews. So God took the Jews out of Egypt and God gave them the Torah. When God gave them the Torah, now that the world depends on the action, speech, and thought of man. And more exactly, action is the commandments, speech is the Torah, and thought is prayer. Corresponds to prayer. And then also corresponds to the three, what's called spiritual dimensions of creation, which are Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, which is mentioned in the sentence from Isaiah, everything in the world that exists from my glory. It says, I made it as action, that corresponds to the commandments. I formed it, that corresponds to speech. That's the Torah. And what is it? Barativ yatzartiv asitiv. I created it. I'm sorry, I mixed it up a little bit. That's the word of Bria, that corresponds to thought. That's prayer. I formed it. That corresponds to the Torah. That's speech, and because you have to speak the words of Torah when you learn Torah. And action, that's commandments. So everything depends on our action, our commandments that we do, on the Torah that we learn, and on the prayer that we make. And prayer is intention. Prayer means emotion. Prayer is not just saying the words. Prayer is emotions for God, realizing how great God is, how big God is, etc. And that is what keeps the world going. Okay. So it says that's what it means that God is a fire, a consuming fire. Hashem Eish Ochla is a consuming fire. What does it mean? That just like fire needs something to grab onto, so godliness has to have something to grab onto in order to be revealed in the world. And that something is the Torah and the commandments and our prayers. And God, therefore, God becomes like a consuming fire. And an interesting thing is that fire seemingly comes from nowhere. I mean, according to laws of combustion, etc. But fire is pretty amazing, because once you light a fire, it's like a whole new thing that comes up. It's not that just you light it and things glow or something. So fire becomes a whole new creation, a new reality that makes light and it makes everything warm. So that's that God can only, so to speak, reveal his essence in this world. God's essence is in this, and that's why God created the world. He didn't create the world by accident. God created the world intentionally, and it's infinite intention of God. Okay, so now let's have an extra explanation of what it means that God is a consuming fire. Here we go. Let's do this like this. Wow, it's really late. What we're learning from now is a sefer which is called Likuti Torah. Likuti Torah, written by the first Rebbe of Chabad. So we're just continuing what we began yesterday and the day before. The Tosfot beer, an extra explanation, what it says that God is a consuming fire. We have to mention, just like fire, it cannot be really go up well on the wick or on the wood or whatever this, but it has to have, it has to consume whatever it is holding on to. Oil, gas, wood. It has to consume what it holds on to. Shapatila or itzim, that the wick or the wood, nochim umuksharim, they have to be, how do you say, a proper combustible to be consumed. Right? You want to light something that's wet, it won't light. You want to light a piece of metal, it's not going to light, right? Unless you have a really hot flame, it's not going to light. Or the colored bow. Kach and or Hashem, the same thing as the light of God will not be held well. B'nefesh adam, in the soul of man. In one of these three things we said before, prayer, commandments, or Torah, ki'im, unless bebittel, you have to make yourself combustible. You have to make yourself combustible. What do they call it? A conductor. And you have to have an expiring, your soul has to be longing for God. Because God responds to what we do. Very basic principle of Kabbalah and Chabad Hasidut really advertises this fact, that God reacts to what we do. So Ruach, Eisi Ruach, our spirit, in other words, our excitement or emotions to God, it brings God's spirit, the Emshich Ruach, and then God reacts even in a higher spirit. Reaction. Therefore, Talui Amshachat, or and so therefore the drawing down of light by means of the Torah and the commandments depends on the Jewish people. So what's it? For instance, what's idolatry? What is idolatry? Idolatry is the worst sin in Judaism. It's the first of the 10 commandments, first of the prohibitions. They have the 10 commandments. The first of the 10 commandments is, I am God that took you out of Egypt. That's the first of the 10 commandments. What does it mean? Believe in God. Second commandment, you shouldn't have any other gods. Are there other gods? So there's a lot of explanations of what it means, but essentially what it means is who are the other gods? The other gods are yourself. In other words, I am God that took you out of Egypt means I am the only reality. The only reality there is in the world is God. He creates the world. He cares. He took the Jews out of Egypt. He picked the Jews. He took the Jews out of Egypt. That's the God of Israel. And this should make us excited. That God is creating the whole world. He's creating everything. And God cares. And God controls the world. And God chose the Jews. God is the ultimate reality. If anything in the world makes you excited, money, popularity, for sure God should make you excited because he's more real than all the money or all the popularity or all the power or whatever. He's creating everything. Why is he creating everything? Why? So that we'll realize that the world, from the world, we'll realize how infinitely real God is, that God is more real than anything in creation. More real. God's reality is unchanging. Our reality is constantly changing. God's reality does not depend on anything. The reality that we have totally depends on everything, right? Time, space, consciousness. And from the essence of God comes the commandments. That should make us excited. Now, a non-Jew is not going to get excited about the essence of God. But on the other hand, a non-Jew has a life. He's alive. God is creating it. So if you don't get excited about God, you're going to get excited about yourself. And a person is willing to do anything for himself. So if you tell a person, believe in this tree, believe in a frog, believe in the sun, believe in the moon, and the person says, what am I going to get out of this? You want to see? Look at this temple to the trees. Look how big this thing is. Look at I've built a whole cathedral to the moon. That's success. We have 1 billion people that believe in the frog god. You call that success? I do. So come and pray with us. I'll do it. Idolatry brings success. Just like crime brings success. If crime didn't bring success, nobody would do it. But it's cheap. It's cheap. It's not real. But it's selfish. That's the whole point. It revolves around yourself. And the purpose of the Jewish people are here to show that there's a higher self, that yourself as a source. And it's God. And if you're not excited about this, then it's like a wick that hasn't got a wick that's made of fiberglass or something like that. It doesn't burn. Fiberglass burns. I don't know. It's made of metal, right? Metal doesn't burn. So therefore, if you want this fire of God to be revealed in the world, it depends on our genuineness. And that's the whole idea of the Jewish people. Therefore, Taluya Meshachas Orin Sov, therefore, the drawing down of light of God and Torah and the commandments are all in the Jewish people. Like it says, Vayakam Edut B'Yakov, that God gave the Torah to the Jewish people. The Torah is some Israel. The 10 commandments are only for the Jews. The Torah is only for the Jews. Let's make it more exactly. The Torah is only to the Jews. But through the Jews come the 7 Noahide commandments. Also comes to the world the awareness that there is a God and that God cares. Ki Yaakov and Yisrael, this idea of Yaakov and Yisrael, this is 2 levels. There's a sentence that says, Vayakom Idut B'Yaakov, V'Torah Sam B'Yisrael. It says that God made a testimony of Jacob and he put Torah in the Jewish people. There's 2 aspects of the Jewish people called Jacob and Israel. Jacob and Israel is the same person, right? Abraham had a son called Yitzchak, and Yitzchak had a son called Yaakov. Yitzchak, his son was Yaakov. And Yaakov fought with an angel and he got an additional name. And the rest of the Torah after this battle with the angel is the Torah uses 2 names. Abraham got his name changed from Avram to Avraham, and after the name changed, he was never called Avram again. It's called Avram, which is not the case with Yaakov. Yaakov was his name given to him by his Rivka, Yaakov. And right, that's right, yeah. And but afterwards, when he fought with an angel, so his name was changed. It was added to Yisrael, an additional name. So the names will go back and forth. Why? Because the Jewish people always retain these 2 aspects. Yaakov is the idea of fighting, and Yisrael is the idea of succeeding. Yaakov is the thing of fighting against your urges, forcing yourself to do good and forcing yourself to turn from bad. That's called eskafia. Forcing yourself to do good and forcing yourself to do bad. A battle. It's the battle against Esav, which is your natural desires and your natural urges. And Yisrael is true essence of what a Jew is. I mean, really, both of them are true essence, because where do you get this idea to fight against your urges? Who says you should fight against your own urges, right? If it's for success or something, how to win friends and influence people, or how to succeed in business or something like that. So you're willing to, act like a nice guy and act like that you care and remember names and things like that to force yourself. But if you're doing it for God, so what would encourage you to change yourself for God? So that's also a Jewish aspect. But nevertheless, you always retain your natural urges, but you always try to control them. That's Yaakov. And Yisrael means that you just feel Jew all the time. You feel godliness all the time. Ki Yaakov and Yisrael, this is the aspect of eskafia, forcing yourself as hapcha, and transforming yourself. Shebezet talui, and this depends, hamshachat, drawing down the light of God by means of Torah and the commandments. That's called serving God, working hard. Working hard. You have to work means you change something. Or you have to change yourself. When a person changes himself, that he becomes interested in the Creator and not so much in himself, he becomes interested in God first. He's more excited about the Creator, about God Almighty, than he is interested in himself, him, herself. That makes the wick combustible. And then the Torah and the commandments they draw light, which is not the case without this. And there's no ability to draw down godliness into the world. Okay, that's why God took this out of Egypt. Behold, by means of these three things that we said before, which is Torah. That's thought. Torah, that's speech. And prayer, that's thought. And the commandments, that's deed. Is by means of this that we draw down, but through them we draw down the light of God into the world to put into physical things, seichel enushi, into human intelligence. On this it says, Anika brosh ranan. God says that I am like a young cedar tree. We've had this before. I am like a young cedar tree. Have you ever seen a young cedar tree? I don't think I ever have, but I've seen pictures of it. What is it? What is a young cedar tree? Cedar trees are very interesting. At least according to this, a cedar trees, they grow up very high. When they're young, they grow straight. They go straight up. And after they go straight, then they get thicker. Then they get there. So let's say a cedar tree, it'll grow up and it'll be, 100 feet high, 10 stories tall. Right? 10 stories tall. It grows up. And then it gets wider. But as it is growing up and it's very thin in the beginning, so it's possible to bend it over. And you can even bend it over to the point where the top of it reaches the ground. Huh? Ever done that before? I never have, and I've never seen anybody do it. But there's a whole story in the Tanakh, or I guess maybe it's even a Midrash. I don't think it's in Tanakh. It's in the Midrash that King David had his chief of staff, his general was Yoav ben Tzruya. And one time King David wanted to conquer a city. And Yoav ben Tzruya said, no problem. Bend over one of these trees, put me on the top of the tree, and let the thing go, and I'll be thrown over the walls of the city. I guess he did it in the nighttime so nobody would see it. And then I'll conquer the city. And when you see blood coming out from the main gate, then you know that the city has been conquered. And that's what they did. They put him on this tree. I guess a lot of men bent the thing over, and they flipped him over the wall, and he went in there, and sure enough, he destroyed those cities. This is when the Jews that were fighting against the police, they were still fighting against the police, but then it was a different police. And he conquered the whole entire city. So it means that this brosh run on this young cedar tree flipped him over. What is brosh? This is an eris. It's a cedar tree, and it's very thin that you can bend it down, the top of it down to the bottom, to the root. And then afterwards, when you let it go and you let the tree, the top of the tree go, right? You release it. Then it will fling whatever is put on it. Alav, kafifa. That you put on it when it was bent over to be a tremendously high place. Huh? It says, like we find in the story about Yoav, found in books. In Yoav, it says, Barabat B'nai Ammon. He fought with B'nai Ammon. Maybe it wasn't the police, it was B'nai Ammon. Okay, but anyway, that's what the commandments are. God said, I am like this young cedar tree. Why? Because I put myself into the deeds of this physical world. I bent myself over just like this young cedar tree, and by means of Hashem bringing himself down, so to speak, and then you do the commandments, and that's letting it go it elevates the soul of man to a tremendously high level into the essence of God. Like it says, my soul was bundled in the bundle of life with God. This was said like by Elijah, the prophet. Elijah, look what it says like this about the Shabbat. This, and that's what the commandments do. The commandments throw us out to a tremendously high place, and that arouses godliness from a high place. And of course, we remain here. Right? That's where the sort of the metaphor sort of breaks down. When you put something on this tree that you bend over, so it flings the thing up, like Yoav, we said, flung him high up in the air. But when we do commandments, it flings our soul up high, but our body remains here. And that's something like arousing the fire of God to be in this physical world. So that's what the commandments do. The commandments, when we do, commandments are simple things. Commandments look like things that have absolutely nothing to do with God or spirituality. It's just these seemingly empty rituals. Empty, superstitious rituals you put on a box, right, on your arm, and that makes a God revealed. What that's make any sense? So the Rebbe says it does not make any sense, but it's true. It is higher than any sense can possibly be, and that's why Jews have been giving their lives to do the commandments. That makes even less sense because suddenly the Jews realize that it makes no sense. The commandments make no sense. They're above any sort of comprehension, logic, spirituality, everything. Spirituality makes a little bit of sense. It says that's the essence of God coming down into the physical world. And when a Jew does it, it flings the soul of the Jew tremendously high above the spiritual. That's why you get even the most simple, non-spiritual, totally physical Jews, and they put on tefillin every morning. And they're not doing it for any reason. They're just doing it because it's a Jewish thing to do. And what is a Jewish thing to do? The Jews are the sons of God. Does that make sense? That makes even less sense. The Jews are the sons of God. How can God have a son? What does that mean? God doesn't have a son. He has 20 million sons. Every single Jew is the son of God. It says in the Torah. How does that mean the son of God? I mean, we don't act. There's a lot of Jews that are the sons. Every Jew is the son of God. Then why are Jews that don't know that the son? How can it be a prince that doesn't know he's? But all the Jews are smitten with amnesia. Well, they don't know. They're not aware. It says, yeah, they are. That's right. That's what the Rebbe is here to wake everybody up to who we are. And even more, when you do the commandments, this flings the soul up to its source. It wakes something up. And when that happens, then that brings the soul back down. But in order to do this, you have to have a feeling of longing for God. You have to believe that it's true. At least somewhere down deep. That once somebody said to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, you're going out in the streets, you're putting tefillin on people. These people don't even know what they're doing. You're putting on tefillin. And the Rebbe said exactly the opposite. The only reason that a person would want to put on tefillin, right? You say, want to put on tefillin? And the person says, why? It's a Jewish thing to do. He says, okay. Right? If you say put on tefillin, it'll help your blood pressure or something like that, then it's a question. Right? You got a question. But if a person just puts on tefillin because it's a Jewish thing to do, and that's what Jews have been doing, and this person says, okay, other Jews do it, but I don't do it. Right? So, okay, you don't. Oh, you know what? I'll do it. Right? It's a whole ritual. It's not so simple. Putting on tefillin is just an example. It's a whole big ritual. You got to put a box, and then you have to put straps. You put another box on this strap. Then you put on the finger, right? And it has to be done exactly right. It has to be right in the center of your head, right over above and above their hairline. There's a lot of laws that are involved. And they're not particularly beautiful, the tefillin. Nothing special about them. I've put on tefillin on a lot of people. A lot of people. I have never once seen a person take a mirror and say, let them see how I look, right? Sometimes their wives and family, they take pictures of them, right? And even then, the person, if they tell him to smile, he smiles. Put out the film, that suddenly becomes like happy, serious. There's like, how do you say, calm? Okay, so that's what the commandments do. The commandments are physical in the physical world, but they shoot the soul up. They wake the soul up to a very, very high place, and that arouses godliness to come into the world. This is all faith. This is all faith. We have to believe that this is true, but it is true. We're not just believing in something that doesn't exist, the Lord of the Rings or something like that. Even though it seems like that, but the Rebbe is talking truth. So the fact is, there are Jews, right? There are Jews. I mean, it's a pretty amazing thing in the world, anti-Semitism. People, and nobody seems that. It's really amazing. It really is very amazing, anti-Semitism. And nobody really seems to want to get to the source. Why do people hate the Jews? What? Why do they all these reasons? They just fall away. Okay? The Jews are crooked. The Jews are this. The Jews have a spirit. What? All the Jews are crooked. All of the Jews have a plan to take over the world. Right? All the Jews in the world. People that you don't even know you're Jewish. I didn't know you're Jewish. I hate you. Right? Why? What's going on? What is there inside of the Jews? That's really what made me become a religious Jew. I was Jewish. I heard a lecture. This is 55 years ago. I heard a lecture by this big professor, and he said something against the Jews. I said, how does he know who the Jews are? How does he know what the Jews are? What the Jews? And the answer to it is this, exactly what we're talking about here. The Jews are like men from Mars. Jews are men from God. Every Jew is connected with the essence of the Creator. It goes a little bit deeper than that, but that's the whole point. And when a Jew does a commandment, whether he knows what's going on or not, it has the potential to shoot him up to the essence of God and bring God to the world. That's the point, is bring God to the world. Okay, God also, if everything in the world that's good, it has a counterpart which is bad. That's the world. There's godliness, there's idolatry, there's health, there's sickness, there's good, there's evil. Everything in the world has a counterpart. That's how God made the world. That's the knowledge, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. If man had not eaten from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, there would still be good and evil, but it would be objective. No one would want to do evil. You'd have free choice, but you wouldn't want to do it. As soon as man ate from it, it became internalized, and evil now becomes part of me. And if it's part of me, it must be good. Says the Rebbe, therefore, everything that there is in the world has an opposition, right? The Jews are God's people. Well, there's always going to be anti-Semitism. There's going to be anti-Jews. Just like there's Brush run on that God put the Torah, the commandments in the world, and the commandments shoot you up very high. There's also the opposite, things that shoot you very low. And that's also what words, thoughts, and speech, thought, speech, and action, which are against God. This is called kalon, almost kavod. This is called shame, which is the opposite of glory. To shame God. What do you mean? How can you shame God? Very simple. A person does a sin, does a terrible thing. Who's creating Hitler? Who's creating Stalin? Who creates Mao Zedong? Who creates these evil people? Right? Karl Marx and all these guys. Who creates them all? God. The creations of God. If so, God can't be very good. If God creates something like that, where did the Holocaust come from? From God. God. Everything comes from God. So that's a big shame for God. So just like there's the glory of God can be revealed by the Jewish people doing what God wants, is the shame of God can be revealed by people going against what God wants. Like it says, okay. And what is this? Also is nafshi avivecha. It says the soul. God says the soul of my enemies, I will shoot them with the kafakela, with the slingshot. Kafakela is the cup of the slingshot. You know what a slingshot is? I mean, in America they didn't used to have these things. In America, they had the slingshot there was a stick that was forked on the end, and you had like a rubber band or something really powerful, and you put them and you shot like that. Which that's also pretty. They can be pretty dangerous. I mean, they can be deadly if you shoot it like a metal ball or something like that. But there was another type of kapakela, and this was you have a leather pouch, and which is tied with two strings, and you put like a stone in the leather pouch. And you hold on to these two strings. The longer the two strings are, so you can whip it around and it goes faster and faster and faster and faster. Then one of the strings is tied around your finger and the other one not. And you let go The one that's tied around your finger stays. The one that's not tied around your finger goes, and the stone gets released. It gets released. And the stone gets released, it's released at a tremendously high speed. High speed. So just like the brosh ranan, the subtle, what is it called? The flexible cedar tree, young cedar tree can be pulled down very low and shot up above. As the same thing, the slingshot can take things, you can throw it up, and you can throw things at a great distance, not going up. You can shoot something very, very far from where you are, namely far from the face of God. That's what sins do. Like it says, Esther, I will hide my face on this day. I'll call a Ra because of all the bad that you're doing. So it's, so to speak, like you take a stone, you throw it far away from the person who's shooting the stone. So same thing is when a person does a sin, so he shoots himself far away from God. Okay, so what do we do if we did sins? We've shot ourselves with a slingshot far away from the Creator. What do we do? The advice which is given is do tshuva. Do tshuva, and especially in the 10 days of tshuva. Now we're getting back to Yom Kippur again. That's what the subject of this is. Sha'az, then the time is a time for everything. The Hoshivim to return back to their source. And that is by means of bitterness. By bitterness on what we've done on the past. Like it says, V'yizaku el Hashem b'tzar lehem. So this is Judaism. Judaism says you did sins. Judaism says like this: every human being is essentially good. We're being created by God. Right? Every man is made in the image of God. That's what God said to Noah. 1,600 years after Adam ate from the tree, God said that things got worse and worse. God wiped out the whole world. And then God said to Noah, okay, I'm starting it over. And every man is made in the image of God. You can't kill people. Because every man is made in the image of God. Everyone is essentially good, but everyone has free will. And if you want to, you can throw yourself up high, like this young cedar tree, or you can throw yourself far away from God, like the slingshot. So what if you've chosen your whole life to shoot yourself far away, which is probably what everybody chooses, right? To shoot themselves far away from. So what do? It says you return. Go back to where you once belonged. Go back to yourself, your true self. How do you do that? I mean, usually when people do sins, they enjoy it. And they want to continue doing it. And even if they want to stop doing it, they can't. Usually. And even if you can do it, you do it for yourself. You realize, I'm getting drunk all the time. It's not getting anywhere. And so I'll just change that for something else. Right? Instead of being, if I'm a drunk, I can't be a businessman. So instead of having, you want money. Instead of alcohol, I want money. But still, you're still the same egotist. How can you return back to God? It's very simple. Be bitter about you're far away. Be bitter about your distance from God. The Ikra Tshuva, the main thing is lifting up your soul to God and saying, okay, God, up to now I made a lot of mistakes. I'm sorry. That's it. On this we say, Tiknu Lomar, we say, God, forgive us, Machal Lanu. It means Chataz Matif Lo. If you do sins, how can you're not really affecting God, but it means that you're asking God that God should forgive you for going against his will. And God should be pleased with you again. That's what it means. I want to return to you, God, with a complete heart. Why did I do sins? Why did I do sins? Well, I mean, let's face it. I did sins because you made me susceptible to do sins. And you made the world very confusing and tempting, etc. And I was weak. I just couldn't do it. And I just did sins and I want to do more. That's it. I have to do, I'm more. But I realize I'm wrong. So have mercy on me. Had mercy on me, change my mind, change my heart, do what you can. I'm sorry. That's what's called having mercy. You ask God for mercy, God himself, and God forgives. That's requesting mercy from God. And we're going to learn soon that this is like a flint stone, like hitting a flint stone, all of a sudden it brings fire out of it. As we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Oh, sorry. Here we go. If so, miyad kesha'alo, immediately when there comes here we go. No. I'm going to have to do this tomorrow. We'll do this tomorrow. Now we're going to talk about this bitterness that you have because you left God. This is like striking a flintstone. It brings out tzur. It says that tzur, it brings out this fire again to the Creator, as we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Now let's do the